Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of Constructive Criticism. This is episode of 565. This is the Edge of Eternities Pick 2 set review, and we are here to bring it to you. Before we do that, we're going to dive right in, but Mason, as the creator of the Pick 2 set review, what is the Pick 2 set review?
Yeah, so the idea behind this is instead of doing like a top 10 list where there's maybe some ambiguity about where number 10, number 7 lie next to each other, we have 4 different categories where we will sort of describe each category, and then we'll each have 2 cards we want to talk about that fits that category. So the first one we're going to do here is sleepers, which is sort of the idea of cards that are good that we feel like not enough people are talking about here. And with that sort of preface underway, Spencer, you want to kick us off?
Nope, I'm going to actually rewind on this one because we have a rotation happening. And this is not in the show notes, but I thought that it was a very important to mention that I've been banned from picking lands from these type of shows. However, I do think it's important before we even start, because I believe none of us picked the shock lands.
Well, I was going to talk about them in hits, like we always do. The shock land, like the dual lands, almost always hits. It's like,
but they're not. Did you put shock lands there?
No, but I was just going to say it.
Oh, all right. Well, I'm just going to say it. I'm just going to say it now, so we can just get this out of the way. We're not going to talk about shock lands. Here are the ones that got them. We got white black, red white, blue black, blue green, and green red. The colors that have fast lands, verges, and shock lands are white black, red white, and blue green, and that's it. So as we rotate into this new standard with this very, I would say, strange mana base, when you look at like shocks plus verges plus other stuff, like it is interesting that white red and white black got all 3, and then blue green, one of the slowest colors, was the other one. I just wanted to mention it. Like, we're probably not going to talk too much about shocklands on this episode. We would, I assume, Mason, you want to talk about it in hits. I assume we would all talk about them in hits on the show.
Yeah, the idea is just like we're trying to, get across different cards and things, and we could talk about the dual lands every set. Dual lands are always the lands in general, some of the most important cards in every set. Dual lands often, though, we can say the exact same things most of the time, and so we often just sort of get them to shout out and not go into detail because it's a little less fun than maybe talking about a card that is a little cooler or something like that.
Yeah. Abe, I don't know if you've looked at the breakdown. Every color has a verge, and it's about 50-50 on a shock versus a fast land, with half the fast lands rotating. How do you feel about lands going into this new format?
I mean, the next set's going to come out in like 4 months after this, so we're probably seeing cycles. I don't know. I think we're really. I think that mana is what it is. It's going to be what it's going to be. I think it's just with rotation happening and things, it'll be interesting in the early months to keep that in mind when you're building your mana bases. But I think there's ample options, which is good. I think,
and that's what next week's episode's about too, right? Building your deck for week one. I bet we'll talk a lot about these dual lands then.
Yeah, that's true. I'll go first on sleepers. So, like Mason said, a sleeper is like card maybe a little bit under talked about, and I literally didn't know that this card existed. And maybe Mason, actually, you're offline too. Now we're all going more offline as a community. So sleeper might have to change, but like Hardline Containment was a card that I didn't know existed before I was getting ready for this episode. It's an aura. You enchant an artifact you control. And then you exile the creature an opponent controls until this aura leaves the battlefield, and enchanted permanent has ward 1. What? This is a 1 mana ward 1 removal spell. I mean, the thing is like in certain formats, it's like pretty invasive, right? Like you have to like do things that matter. But I don't know. Ward 1 is a lot in a lot of those formats. Taking a full turn or things depending on stuff. So like even the tempo play of this card could be really good. I'm curious for you, Abe, like is this a card that you've looked at for Hammer Time? Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I mean, the answer to that question is no. I really don't think that there's a lot of room for like sorcery speed removal right now. It's not the right environment for it. But I think a deck like Hammer, any deck that's trying to deploy specifically non-creature artifacts in support of its game plan, is definitely like looking at this. You know, and I think really Hammer, maybe in Pioneer, you know, with like core steel cutters and stuff, but it depends on what the metagame looks like. What I'm actually pretty excited for is just being like a tutorable thing for Bright Glass Gear Hulk.
Yeah.
You know, I think there's like, it's a good card to have access to in the toolbox, and it gives some support to decks that are trying to set up with artifacts. Because I think, especially in a lot of game ones, decks like that are just not going to face, you know, a ton of interaction. And when you're able to have, especially like a 2-spell turn with this in the mid game, that's where I feel like it's most backbreaking.
I like what you said about Pioneer. That was where my head went with this card first, was that it might fit into the Pioneer decks. I had not thought about Glacier Gear Hulk though. Mace, why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, that was the first thing I saw. What I thought of when I saw this card is just in standard. It is tutorable 1 mana answer spell, right? And you have the artifact. And then, you know, your Gear Hulk becomes a bit of a bigger liability, right? That, like, you invested some mana and then you invested more, but it has Ward 1. And I mean, you know, answering their big thing in the late game, right? Like we always think about cards on curve, but just imagine turn 6, turn 7, you know, they have some big thing in the way. You rip your Bright Glass Gear Hulk, you grab this, you grab some other card, maybe like, you know, Paw Patch Recruit or something. That's a really powerful turn. And we saw them already search up cards like Dusk Rose Reliquary as a thing. And this is, you know, just a different version of that that's maybe a bit better in some builds, maybe a bit worse in others. Just really interesting for that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Definitely a card that I thought would be talked about more. That was not. Let's talk about my next one. Tragic Trajectory. This one actually I did see people talk about like the day it was spoiled. So I don't like, maybe sleeper is the wrong thing, but it is 1 black for a sorcery. You know, that's key. I think that's something people missed. For -2/-2, but it has void. So you're welcome, Mason. I'm the first one to read void. So basically the way the void works is that creature gets -10/-10 until and for if a non-land permanent left the battlefield, which is kind of how void works, or a spell was warped. I think this card's pretty good. I don't know where it fits in, but I think that it scales really well depending on the stuff that could happen. I think that when this card was spoiled, I think that people snapped off thinking this was an instant, is what I noticed. They just assumed it was like a disfigure with upside. And it is not exactly that. But I still think that it has legs as like a 1 mana removal spell in the right circumstances. It's not my hits, it's not my hopefuls. I think that like once you read the card properly, it kind of falls into that sleeper category as something that like, oh yeah, if the format dictates it, it kills things with all kinds of abilities like indestructible. It cares about power and toughness. Like it does a lot of things. So yeah.
Yeah, I think this card's quite good. Just like, I think one thing people forget about Void too is they think of it like Revolt, but it counts your opponent's stuff as well, which is pretty important. Like that's going to come up a non-zero amount of the time. Obviously on a sorcery that becomes a lot less important with the opponent's things, but there's plenty of times, you know, like they chump block something or something in that vein, and this can finish off a different creature. I think this card's quite good, and we'll probably see a good amount of standard play. I don't think it's like, you know, the best card we've ever seen, but it's going to be, I think, a solid role player in the format.
I think also, like, when you put it in context of warp, which I'll get to a little bit more in my first sleeper, how that works, but the line of text there of like, if a spell was warped this turn, gives you a little bit more agency with it as a sorcery, right? Like, if you have warp cards in your own deck and you're, casting a spell for its warp cost, then you get access to, a 1 mana spell that's really premium, right? -10, -10 for a single black is probably going to trade up on mana for you, most of the time. It's pretty hard. One mana 10/10s aren't easy to come by, or I guess 11/11s. So you're definitely going to be trading up on mana, and so it's a very strong card when the floor is already that of like Grim Bauble or other sorcery speed -2/2 effects we've had with just a different upside that you have access to. Instead of leaving a permanent behind, you're going to get the opportunity of -10 -10.
Well, talk to me about all Fate Stalker. I think that is your first sleeper aim.
Yeah, I think this is actually the perfect card to really talk about the warp mechanic. So all Fate Stalker is 3 and a white for a 2/3 Drix Assassin. And when it enters, you can exile up to 1 target non-assassin creatures until this creature leaves the battlefield. And it has the ability to cast for its warp cost of 1 and a white. So for 1 and a white, you can cast it from your hand for its warp cost, and then you exile the creature at the beginning of the next end step. Sorry, not your next step, the next end step. And then you can cast it from exile on a later turn. So that means is that you can cast this as just something that exists in play for a turn for 2 mana. So in this case, you can cast it for 1 and a white, have it enter, exile a non-assassin creature until this leaves the battlefield. End of turn. This is going to go to the exile zone. You're going to get the thing back, or your opponent's going to get the thing back, whatever you took. And then on a future turn, you can pay 3 and a white and cast it and do the same thing. So you can have your Banisher Priest later as well. That is like a really powerful like ability. I mean, you think of it, it's kind of like an adventure creature, but it does the same thing instead of kind of being split between 2 cards. You can like cast it at face value, or if you want to get a little bit more value off of its enters battlefield ability, or having it in play, you can play it for its warp cost. And this one specifically, like the ability to exile another creature until this creature leaves, kind of lets you do a bit of a scam thing with some of this cost reduction warp stuff with a bunch of cards in the set. I mean, there's a lot of creatures that are, maybe costed at, I think there's even like, this is an extreme example, there's an uncommon 9/9 you can cast for 3 mana. It's just a colorless 9/9 for 9, or you can warp it for 3. You warp that for 3 and then pay this for 2. Now you can exile it and have it come back and stay in play because it won't be a part of the warp ability.
I remember, I don't know if I'm the most boomer or Abe is the most boomer, but I remember reading some cards from Larawind Standard that did this type of effect, and this was kind of a theme that long ago. And I remember playing an extended deck that played mostly cards like this. The people were always surprised how good just forcing ETBs, forcing recursion, forcing cheating costs, things like that were. And this card gets to do it, and then also gets to kill something. So I don't know, it seems fine.
Yeah, I think this is pretty interesting as a role player in the so it's not the blink, but the warp deck. I mean, it would basically be like a blink thing. That's pretty interesting. And then just on its face, these kind of cards are often pretty okay in decks every now and again. And I mean, you combine this with things like Fortune Loyal Steed from OTJ. That gives you 8 enablers for your warp targets. And, you combine that with one of my cards, kind of like Starfield Shepherd, some of the other good warp things. There might actually be something in that space, which is pretty exciting and cool.
Yeah, and it also, I mean, it doesn't have to be used only on your own things. I mean, if you're, you declare a blocker out of the way or kill a token creature, maybe remove counters from a creature of your opponents. I mean, those are all use cases for this. So it's a pretty valuable 2-mana spell, and then, kind of leaves it on the back end. Then my second sleeper is Faller's Faithful. Now, Faller's Faithful is 2 and a black for 3/1 that when it enters, you destroy up to 1 target creature. If that creature wasn't dealt damage this turn, its controller draws 2 cards. This card, I think, is actually just really... I think it's really powerful. Like, 3 mana destroy target creature is an okay rate. 3 mana destroy target creature and get a body is... really good. You're giving your opponent 2 cards if you're destroying their creature, but the ability for it to also be 3 mana, 2/1, Altar's Reap, right? Destroy one of your own creatures and draw 2 cards is really powerful. And the times where you can maybe have, a post-combat, okay, take out your thing that blocked. Or, deal incidental damage with, a smaller thing or, some sort of ping ability, and then finish that creature off. Like, these are all use cases for a card like this, and I think it's probably one of the most flexible, I'm going to say Fleshbag Marauder-esque cards that's ever been printed, and I just haven't seen anyone really talk about the implications of a card like this. I'm pretty high on cards that are really flexible like this, especially as creatures, because they're easy to recur and can do a lot. And, when the rate is right and the flexibility is right, I think cards like this just have a good chance to see play.
Yeah, killing your own thing too is just so nice. Yeah. Like, if you're playing like a aristocrat style deck and having one of these to clear some pesky card, but also maybe you sack off, your Doom Traveler variant, draw 2 cards, it's pretty good.
Yeah, I would say that like this is like a very like standard pushed card that probably doesn't see its way into Pioneer, but that doesn't mean that like it doesn't enable those things, right? Like those strategies and the things that like this card's trying to do. And the self-sacrifice, like Mason said, is like kind of the draw here. And I like that you talk about like its flexibility, because like, all right, I think about like Sheldred a lot when I think about cards like this. And let me wax poetic for a second, but like you would let your opponent draw 2 cards to kill Sheldred when like it was the only thing that could beat you a lot of the time. Like that would be a thing that people would do a lot. And that's across multiple formats. And the fact that it gets to do that while also enabling your strategy, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, and I think that like Sepharroth is obviously, I think, one of the bigger winners from rotation and from the recent bans, as being a card that was clearly really powerful and speaks to a very, typically powerful thing. It's kind of like a card that's in the back of my mind when I'm looking at this set as being one of the incumbents to inherit the standard format with the right support. And this card, is in a similar lane as far as turn my creature into a new card, but also isn't legendary and has a bit more flexibility in that way. And so, I wouldn't be surprised to see this be a 1-of or a 2-of that really impresses. And I think I haven't seen anyone even talk about the card.
Yeah, definitely. I think the biggest part of this card is just the 3 mana nature of it, but that a card being a 1 or a 2-of is a totally fine place for a card to land. And I do wonder, like, will in like 3 or 4 years are we gonna get the 2 mana version of this card? You know what I mean? Like, I think that's a believable.
So good.
Yeah, I think you could have made the 2 mana version now. It just would need to be black, but I think like standard could handle it. So.
Oh wait, for
maybe not for the pro. Image 4, that's right. I'm next up. One of my cards is the first one here is the Warp card I mentioned in passing before, Starfield Shepherd. This is 3 white for a creature angel. It has flying and it's a 3/2. When this creature enters, search your library for a basic plains card or a creature card with mana value 1 or less. Reveal it, put in your hand, and then shuffle, and then warp for 1 and a white. I'm not sure if I mentioned that before. Basically, what I really like about this card is I'm a big fan of cards that help you smooth your game, right? And those are guarantee that you get to play Magic. So really, I just need a good 1-drop that I kind of want to find a lot. And this card will just help you out in games you mulligan and in games you're curving out as well. You can just like tutor things up. If you have powerful synergies, will make it happen. Before like a like this plus Pixie, like a Pixie type card is pretty good, right? Like you go tutor that up, this picks it up, you can kind of use it again. That's pretty interesting to me. But I don't know, just generally like some sort of white black or white blue bigger in mid controlling deck that could use the like a powerful 1-drop creature would be super nice. And there are things like that that exist. So this is when I have my eyes on for like its life in standard, but I don't have anything that I'm like out of the gate wanting to shove this into.
This is the moment where everybody pauses the episode and goes and buys 3,000 of this card because Spencer massively disagrees, and I think this card is actively bad.
What's bad about it?
So like, you warp this, right? And
yeah,
you have a 3/2 for a turn, but you can't attack or block because it goes away. You go get a thing, and now you've spent, I don't know, a turn getting a 1-drop, so you're behind on curve already. If you go into planes, that's fine, but like, I don't know, like there are better ways to go do that. Maybe there's not anymore. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe like this is actually the best way to go get a planes and things like that. I think this card fits into no curves and actually doesn't do anything that you said. Like, I don't think that it fixes things. I don't think that it
you don't think when you mulligan to 5, this card helps you make your land drops and have spells you can cast in the late game by having a card in exile you can replay?
So if you want to play this card because you're mulliganing to 5, and you think this is the best way to like fix that?
I think that if I have other synergies that come together, this card like enables those and also plays well when I mulligan.
I think that you could find a better way to do that.
Sure.
I'm pretty sure one of the best decks in Standard right now plays Carrot Cake.
I don't think that is one of the best decks, but I do appreciate that is a thing that somebody could say.
I'm just saying, like, if we're in a world where Carrot Cake is a card on the list of playables, I'm pretty okay with a card that is,
But, like, I'm also anti-Carrot Cake, right? So, like, I'd probably be anti... Also, I think Carrot Cake is better than this card.
Right. Like I said, this is a card that I don't have anything to do with right now, but I'm keeping an eye on for the future. Yeah. But I think it's, like, totally reasonable to play this card, like, in the Carrot Cake. Like, I think Carrot Cake's, like, a good example of just, like, if you had a deck that wanted to, like, make sure to hit land drops, searching up planes also is mana fixing with Shock Lance. Right.
Would you not just rather have any of the 1/1s that draw a card in white though?
It kind of depends on my type of deck, right? I think like for example, if I'm a 3 or 4
I
color
told
deck,
everybody to buy them. I told them like this is the curse
like
of CC is that I'm.
Well, I'm trying to explain what your question is, and you're talking over me. It's like if it's like a 3 or 4 color card, right? Like that's like the way I would maybe want to do it. I don't have the answer to that. I agree that like the 1/1 draw a card white creatures are reasonable ways to go about that. Like they're reasonable to do a similar thing, but this card is doing different things and enabling potential synergies, right? Like that's what I like about this card. But I don't think those things currently exist. Like those are things I'm looking forward to in the future. Does that make sense?
I think that the fact that it's limited to creatures is going to limit this card a lot. Is my thought.
Yeah, I agree. It'd be a lot better if we could get one mana. I could get your card. I'd grab your card a lot if I could.
That would make this card real. Like, actually, can we be like that? That might have been how this card was originally designed. They're like, oh,
I totally believe that. Yeah.
We actually can't do that. Yeah. No, I think that the fact that it's limited to creatures is the reason that I'm like, I don't know, low on it. And I also think that like spending 2 mana, if you need the land, I think that what Mason's saying is true, right? Like you're like, no, I'm just trying to hit my land drops. Like this card becomes better.
Yeah, I would say like the way to think about this card is there's some 1 mana creature that you really want, or like maybe some combination of them that is like really powerful as a synergy. Like for example, I think the black-white Pixie deck would have really liked to play this card. Just searching up a Pixie and then picking this back up on turn 3 would have been a really, I think, potent play. And so if you have something like that in the future, this card's nice, and it has the bailout clause of like, maybe you already have your stuff, or maybe you mulligan, or maybe you're a multicolor, like you're 3-4 colors. Then this card also helps fix your mana, and that's what I like. I don't think this card is like one I want to defend the whole world on. You know what I mean? but I think it has a lot of potential to it.
I think also when you have a card like this and you open up the card pool a little bit, like if you look at Pioneer, if a deck like Heliod combo were back in the format, right? If you could do that and play Walking Ballista, this tutors up a Walking Ballista, right? Like it does have roles it can play. It can go get, I mean, it's an Angel. So let's say there was a really good card for the Angels deck, 1-mana Angel, right? Then like now you have a reason to put the card in your deck and have it play a role. You just need to be able to build your deck with all of those constraints, which isn't always the case. But I think that, you know, like I definitely agree with you, Mason. I think the card has chops to like be some good glue in the same way that, I mean, I don't think any of us really expected Carrot Cake to be good glue.
Yeah.
But, you know, it kind of is just based on the circumstances. There are definitely circumstances I can imagine where a card like this, because it's able to be any hunk of cardboard on turn 5, right? Like adventure creatures inherently are just good. And so if you play this as an adventure card that is 1 and a white, go get a land or a 1-drop, and then 5-mana creature also is a creature, but go get a land or a 1-drop then too, like that can't be that bad.
I like it. You two sold me on it. I was gonna say the thing about that Abe said about like the larger the format gets, the better this card gets, right? Because it gets to like its pool grows a lot, and then when you go into something like Pioneer, it's entirely possible that like maybe this card never sees standard play. Maybe it's just like the card pool is never big enough, but like I don't know, tutoring something 1 mana or less for any creature could be good in other formats.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I also think the way I look at that card is like it's a glue card. It's less. The Carrot Cake comp is really good. I'd not thought of that until Abe brought it up. But that's how I would try to think about this card. Now, this next card, I think you can maybe argue is glue, but also a huge role player, and one that I was very excited when I saw it, and that's Edge Rover. It's green for an artifact creature robot scout. 2/2.
So did we change the show notes, Abe? Did you change it when you realized all 3 of us had this on our list?
No, I just when I was doing the rest of my...
Do all 3 of us have it still?
Yeah, I just moved it over to a hopeful.
So
go ahead, Mason.
So it's green for a 2/2 artifact creature robot scout reach. When this creature dies, each player creates a lander token, and lander tokens are artifacts that have tap it and sacrifice it and spend 2 mana. Search your library for a basic land card, put onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. So basically spend 2 mana to Evolving Wilds, right? 1 time.
But both people get it.
Yeah, both people get a lander token, but when you pop your token, only you get it. Which I did misread the first time. For some reason, I thought this did it both ways. And I thought that's weird. Anyways, this card is just aggressively slanted. This is a 2/2 for 1. That is an artifact creature, which I think is nice in that Gruul Delirium deck. I think one of the big benefits of Gruul Delirium was like Go for the Throat was a good kill spell. And so like that made like when that card was popular, that deck like raised a little. But still, you know, enabling your fear of missing out on your 1-drop is super nice. You know, they have Patchwork Bestie already to kind of help out with that. But I just think this card is super nice. And like Spencer said, we all put this card at, I think, different spots. I know. I'm curious what you two have to say about this card as well.
I put this in hopeful. I hope that we haven't reached. This is why I put it in hopefuls. So I'm gonna wax poetic for a second, but like, I hope we haven't reached a point in Magic where a 1-mana 2/2 with upside. And I did argue with my best friend about whether this card has upside.
I think that's fair.
For quite a while, like, I think that in the right decks, this card is crazy, and I'm very hopeful that in the right format, in the right deck, that this card sees play. And I'll talk about what I talked about with my friend here. 1, in the Gruul Delirium deck, its death is a downside. Like, they are more likely to want and have the 2 mana to do the thing than you are most of the time. However, in a like as a sideboard card for like a ramp deck, this card is all upside. You're
you
like
just play block.
Yeah, you just like play block ramp. You're like, it's crazy in that type of deck.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's still playable in both decks. A 1-mana 2/2 doing all this stuff is like, you're telling me that there's never a time where you can use the lander token even though you gave your opponent, like, I don't know. I just think I'm very hopeful for this card. And I also think that it like creates a pretty interesting baseline for uncommon creatures in Magic the Gathering these days.
Yeah.
When I saw this card, I was like, okay, this is where we're at. Like, this is what we're doing now. And I don't know, like, there was something reassuring about that. I mean, you said, yeah, I'm kind of curious. Like, is that what you thought when you saw it?
No, but I think that's a really good point. I think like much like the carrot cake thing, I think that's a really great way to look at it. Like, this is sort of, hey, if you haven't got the message, the bar's moved, and like, this is a card that can be an uncommon and be totally reasonable. And yeah, I don't know. I think it's super interesting. And like the stats allow for it too. Like the game has changed a lot, and this is kind of the new bar of like you. And honestly, it's a little Goblin Guide-esque, right, for its time. 1-mana 2/2 with a notable sometimes downside.
I just said
right.
That. I literally said that. How is this different than Goblin Guide when we had that conversation?
Yeah.
Can I tell a funny story?
Yeah, really quickly. I was just gonna say one quick thing about this card is, maybe there's some good landfall cards too in the future where like your 1-drop dying enables your like Step Links variant later. Like, I don't have anything like that
right now with the mono green deck. So
yeah, exactly. Like I we don't have a perfect answer here, but I really like your point too about the ramp deck. I had not thought of that, so I just wanted to mention that as well.
There was a really fun Reddit thread that we mentioned on this podcast like 6 years ago, with, I don't know, like, canceled person is the right thing to say, but like Jeff Lind was doing stuff and he was talking about Goblin Guide, and he's like, you can't do this with Goblin Guide, it ramps your opponent. And former host of the show, Tori, was like, hey, so like, it actually doesn't ramp them. That's actually not what the card does. Ramp equates like putting a land into place. Like, no, it put lands in their hand. How is that not ramp? And like, they had a huge argument where Jeff Hoogland got like ratioed really hard on Reddit. And I don't know, getting ratioed hard on Reddit is just funny to me. And I think that this card will confuse people a lot, because the first time that I read this card, I didn't realize that both of you got the lander token. And it changed the card for me in like, okay, how can I maximize the lander token, or how can I make it not matter? So, Abe, you also had this card though.
Yeah, I mean, I feel bad. I feel like I've betrayed my belief in it. I had it as a sleeper, and then I was looking through the set more because I was like kind of doing my pick 2 on my lunch break, and then I finished it when I got home, and I was like, I'm hopeful for it. I don't know. I don't know if I believe in like 1-mana rate creatures anymore. I think that it has all the elements to kind of be something that proves me wrong, and I hope I'm wrong, because I think that like if 1-mana 2/2s are playable, Magic is pretty like Magic still makes sense to me in that way, where like I can just put good stats into play early and leverage them. But like, if it's going to be good, I think that 1-mana 2/2 is aggressive enough. If you're trading it off, like, you're probably playing a deck, if you're playing 1-mana 2/2 that wants more access to more of its mana, or is making the game hard for the opponent to have 2 mana to spare in the early game, so they probably aren't getting use of their token. And I mean, you mentioned it, Spencer. I think the mono green landfall deck is a great fit for a card like this, where it's already an aggressively slanted green deck that's looking to make multiple landfall triggers happen with Tifa and other landfall creatures. So I don't know. I like the guy. He's pretty neat, but I don't know. My feelings about just saying, okay, I'm gonna play like, a Savannah Lines. Like, yeah, this card looks amazing, but also it's an uncommon. Like, as much as we can print this at uncommon, we did print this at uncommon. So like, is it gonna be the next hot thing?
I don't know. We got some $15 uncommons these days, man. So like,
we had $15 uncommons back in the day too, but they were like half the exile.
They're not Inquisition of Kozilek anymore, man. They're like, I don't know.
Well, I'm saying this is just a 2/2 for 1 mana. Like these days, 2/2 for 1 mana is just like Isamu, Hand of Khanda. Get in the back seat. We're done with you.
I like that you're downplaying a card that you put on your own list. You're like
I'm hopeful for it. I want to be wrong. I feel jaded saying this, but you know,
I love it.
I think it might be the truth.
I love it. Let's go on to favorites. I'm gonna go first. These are just what is a favorite? It's just our favorite cards in the set. They could be anything. It could be unplayable nonsense. It could be something that we just are excited to try. I have one that I'm pretty sure got some R&D treatment, and that is Isotel Explorer. This is 2 green for an insect scout. You may play an additional land each of your turns. You may play lands from your graveyard. I just want to be clear. There was a time in mine and Abe's time where like Crucible of Worlds was like a sideboard card that was like $30. And now this is just attached on a creature that also gets that. And whenever you play a land, mill a card. So not only does it do Crucible of Worlds, it builds on it. I think this card's cool. Like, I think that 4 mana is too much for... Especially for like a 2/4, I don't know. People are like, Spencer, this is like your kind of card. But once you get to 4 mana, it's really hard. You have to put... I think the math was on like the old Primeval Titan... what's the 2/2 Abe that was like the 4 mana... Oracle of Moldiah? Is that the name of the card?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, Oracle of Moldiah required you to play like a lot of lands. Like you had to play a cubic ton. And this doesn't even let you play them from the top of the deck. Like, you have to play them from your hand.
Or the graveyard.
Or your graveyard. And we don't have fetch lands yet. We have some. But, I don't know. I think this card's cool. It is one of my favorite cards in the set. Like, if I was building like a casual commander deck, it would fit into that deck. And if it does see play and like is in like a cool deck for Spencer, like I'll be really excited to play it.
Yeah, I wonder how this works in the Pioneer 4-color Aftermath Analyst deck, where like you have all of those Capenna fetch lands that like insta pop, and you're trying to like fill your graveyard and like sometimes wombo combo loop or whatever. I wonder if this card's good there. It's probably too much mana.
I think that if they had Summoner's Pact, they would play one. I thought about that deck, but like you're not gonna play like a bunch of these, right? Like they're just like 4 mana 2/4s.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think it'd definitely be in a 1-up. So yeah, you're probably right. Without like a Summoner's Pact S card, it's probably a dead on arrival. But it is a really fun and interesting card to think about.
It's the exact kind of card I know I'm going to play a lot in Vintage Cube.
Yeah.
When you have actual fetch lands, this card is really good. Like,
yeah, I mean, when you staple together Exploration and Crucible of Worlds, those are 2 powerful effects together. But if you don't have like a fetch land or like a strip mine, it's a little bit less good.
Can you imagine just strip on your opponent twice with this card?
I don't have to.
You're like, I don't have to imagine. I'm gonna do it. You're just like, oh man.
You're playing Fast Bond, Spencer? Oh my! I'm not getting on Vintage Cube tangent.
No, it's like, okay. I get what you're putting down there, Abe. It's one of my favorites. Like, it's a cool card. Like, I drafted half of this card multiple times. It's just like, I don't know that they're gonna give us the resources for this card to be cool in other places.
I don't know. They did put Strip Mine into the set on a bonus sheet. You can do it. You can live
oh my gosh!
limited.
Are you telling me that somebody's gonna strip mine their opponent twice with this card in an event?
Maybe more than twice. Let's see how strip mining goes.
Twice a turn.
That's GG's, right? Like, that's just game over.
Wait,
that reminds me of my Strip Mine story, which I'll have to save for another episode. But my competitive Strip Mine story, if I had this card, even better.
I actually told that story to a friend literally last night. It came up. We were talking about strip mine. I told your story and they loved it. I gotta say too, one of the things that now sparked a question that I want listeners to reply in the comments and let us know. In Block Constructed, are the bonus sheet cards legal? Let me know. No one ever plays Block Constructed. No, they're not.
I don't think they are.
Why not? Block Constructed is not a real format. Let them do it. Let them have a little
True. Four strip mines.
My next card is Cosmog. I didn't actually. Is this on your list, Mason? I actually didn't check.
Mm-hmm.
It is. What is? So it's on my favorites. What is it on for you?
It's on my favorites as well.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll read it and then you can go first, and then I'll go. It's an elemental Lurgoyf. This creature has power and toughness equal to the number of cards you own in exile, and its toughness is that number +1. Mason and I actually text about this card.
For a black and a green, by the way.
Yeah, for a black and a green. I thought it said that. Sorry. Mason and I text about this card. I was like, did you see this? He's like, yeah. I was like, this is sweet. He's like, yeah, it's sweet. I was like, it might be good. He's like, it might be good. I think we said the same thing.
Yeah.
We were like, I don't know how good it is, but it's really sweet. I don't know. I like what they've done with the Tarmogoyf variants. And this one particularly caught my eye because, like, it's 2 mana, it grows throughout the game. Like, it does the Tarmogoyf thing, but it has a cost to you, and I really love that. What about you, Mason?
Yeah, a lot of similar things. I mean, also, I just love the art. That's something I wanted to highlight. Like, I don't know if there's multiple arts, but the base art of it, like, as a Cosmos, super cool. And the flavor text of, like, alert, Cosmogoyf, recommended action, run, and then this is the last transmission of the ship. That's really cute. Something that, like, it's nice where it's like, this is something that makes sense in this set. Like, some of these cards I look at and it's like, this could be, you know, Dominaria or whatever, right? Like, but this is a card that's like really using the Edge of Eternity stuff. And as a motif that I am not in love with, I would say, this was one that made me really appreciate us going here. And that was part of why it was my favorite. It gave me, when I saw this, I was more excited for future cards, which I thought was really special. But then also, just as a Magic card, this card is really cool. You know, I think, like, that this card, Cling to Dust, is a thing I thought a lot about, of, like, you know, maybe I'm clinging myself, right? Getting a bunch of cards and another card, this thing gets really big. That's cool. This plus Relic of Progenitus and Modern is something that's cool. Obviously, I think, you know, this card's not quite there at a competitive Modern level, like on Rip or anything like that, but it's just a cool card to think about. And in Standard with stuff like Ketramos, you know, like, is there like an Abzan Ketramos deck that uses this as like a role-playing type card? I don't know. But my favorite thing, and the thing I'm most curious about from y'all, is like weird Pioneer implications of, like, you're playing Greasefang and your opponent boards in Rest in Peace. Like, if that was a common play pattern, do you think you would board in Cosmogoyfs? Like, that's kind of cool to think about.
That's actually kind of the thing that I thought about for this card initially, is like, even if it's not like a good main deck card, like anybody that's like trying to like bust out your graveyard stuff, I don't know, like it's pretty interesting. It plays really well with Murktide Regen, which is one of my favorite cards. It plays really well with Relic. Like, it plays well with Graveyard Hate in itself. So, I don't know. What about you, Ed?
I'm surprised now that you brought up Collect Evidence as a thing that you can do in Standard to fuel.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you play with Analyze the Pollen, you can, like, pretty easily turn this from, oh, you know, I've got my cute little hee-hee ha-ha 2/3 Cosmogoyf, to now, yeah, my whole graveyard's gone, attack for 12. And, like, that's pretty strong, in my opinion.
You're bringing the heat, Abe, as they say, and there's the chillins say.
Yeah, I think that, like, it's, again, like, kind of like I said for our friend the Tutu, like, it's hard to say whether a card that is just a rate monster, you know, always makes the cut in like a format these days. But when you're playing with the right synergies and you like have the right tools, I mean, I could see this being really good in Modern with a card like Detective's Phoenix, right? And like, I think Modern is a format where there's a lot more things going to exile, or more use of the exile zone. There's more enablers for something like this. The graveyard's also, right, you see more cards, you're put more in the graveyard, which is the easiest way to get things into exile. There's just a lot more opportunity for a card like this to shine. But yeah, I think it has the unbounded potential to be huge for 2 mana, and huge for 2 mana is pretty darn good.
Yeah, we've actually seen that from the black green graveyard decks already, that are the graveyard decks rather than the exile decks. Like, we've seen big stuff for 1 or 2 mana be good, like, a lot. So let's go to you, Mason. We already talked about Cosmog. Why don't you talk to me about the Zealot that I believe you and Abe both have on your list?
Yeah, so I have Umbral Caller Zealot. This is a 1 black for a creature human cleric. 3/2. It has sacrifice another creature or artifact, surveil 1. And then that's all there is to it. Uncapped on the sacrifice, and also can sacrifice artifacts, which is pretty cool. I actually did a video with Magic the Gathering Online that should be on their YouTube at the time you're hearing this, where they had me play some Edge of Eternity Standard, and one of the decks I brought was a black-white sacrifice deck with Sepharroth and this card, and it was just like really fun to play with, like sacking my board, doing like the classic sort of, aristocrats thing, but also just kind of like aggressively surveilling away, looking for my Raise the Past to bring back the team. It was just a lot of fun, and I just had a blast with that card, and I'm really looking forward to playing that more just on Arena in my free time for fun, because it's just a good time.
I just don't think we get that colon anymore. Like, I think that colon does not exist in that space very often anymore, and they're very careful about when they introduce it. And you might be asking, Spencer, what are you talking about? You're talking English, we're talking about Magic. It's like getting to just do a thing without a cost. I guess there is a cost, but like, they don't print this anymore, and they haven't for, I want to say, like 10 years. Like, it's pretty rare when they
we have the Prezioso from LCI, but he is legendary, which is a big cost in decks like this.
Yeah, I think I also think Surveil is like a pretty strong mechanic. If you had this on your list, though, you had it at, I think.
Yeah, I actually have this as a hit.
Yeah,
I think this card rips. Like, I think that a lot of the issues with like aristocrat style decks historically is that beyond the first one, they're not competent plan A aggro decks or like plan A creature decks that generate enough advantage or see enough cards to like realistically do anything. Like, the original Aristocrats deck was, had the benefit of all of the best versions of some of these cards that we saw, and then also, a secondary, 2 or 3 different avenues of combo kill. Like, those are really potent. This card just fuels a lot of what you want to do. Like, the most powerful thing to do generally with these sacrifice decks is to burn through a lot of cards and see a lot of your deck and get a lot into your graveyard to then recur. I mean, Rally the Ancestors, the deck that I qualified for my first Pro Tour with, and you had to like really work to get the creatures in play and into the graveyard. Like, Nantuko Husk was the sack outlet you had. It's like the ability to sacrifice a creature for no cost is really, really powerful. And we see that time and time again. That's why they're so selective with it. And like, Viscera Seer is the best sack outlet because it digs you to the thing you need to find. And generally, Surveil is even better than Sacrifice a Thing, and getting it on just a solid rate, if not like a pushed rate creature. I don't know that this card would have been unplayable at like a 2/2 or a creature didn't have the ability to also sacrifice an artifact.
I'm really glad you said that, because like, I was thinking like this could have been a 2/1, and I think it still would have made our list. Like legitimately, it could have died to Gut Shot or like Lava Dart, and it was still like, I mean, so does everything else that does this.
Yeah, and I think also like the other thing about it is Mobilize being a mechanic in Tarkir like gives you a lot of like in the games where you have not yet assembled your combo. That's why I say it's really important that you're a good plan A creature deck, is that you can't always count on, oh, I'm going to have a Blood Artist in play, I'm going to have this and that, and have these below rate creatures that are then going to win the game because I have a bunch of them. Like, that's not how it works. You're going to get kind of run over playing cards that don't do enough. But when you have things like this that are able to be on rate in the early game and not get outclassed, your game can have, like, your deck can have a functioning game plan. And when you're making your deck more consistent, you're seeing more cards, you're able to really juice up a payoff card, like Return of the Ranks, or whatever the flavor of the week version of that is. It just has, it has so much potential. I mean, like, Bloodghast is a card in the format. There's another card we'll talk about that's on my list. That's another good recursive creature. There's a lot of ways to get your value out of this and to really make it so that you're smoothing your draws where your deck otherwise might get outclassed because it's a little bit weaker pound for pound. But this card is not a part of that problem. This card is definitely tussling pound for pound with other 2-drops.
Should we talk about weaponing? Is it weapons manufacturing?
Yeah, now that I'm talking about one of my hits, I guess talk about my favorite cards in the set. My first favorite is Weapons Manufacturing. It's 1 and a red for an enchantment that says whenever a non-token artifact you control enters, create a colorless artifact token named Munitions, with when this token leaves the battlefield, it deals 2 damage to any target. I just really like this card. I think that I just talked about at length about a card that sacrifices artifacts for free. I've always loved playing decks like Affinity or with Arcbound Ravager, like things that are just eating up additional resources and things that fuel that. And it really is a card that at 1 and a red is really cheap and does something very innocuous. There's no way built in for you to sacrifice the artifact tokens. They're just made. But when they do leave the battlefield, they do blow up. So, like, they kind of, like, on their own might protect you from mass artifact removal if you're playing an artifact deck. They kind of build and present a threat to your opponent if you do draw that sack outlet. And in general, like, I just think it's a really, really neat card. It's a card that I could see myself years ago thinking about playing in my Affinity decks, as like a way to sidestep some of the hate that I'd see, and maybe have a bit more way to interact with the board if I needed it in longer games. But no, I mean, I just really like the card. I think that it's something that speaks to, like, if it ever has its time, I will really love playing that deck. And if it doesn't, I still think it's really cool.
That's so funny. I read this card and thought, this is not a Spencer card. This is the opposite of a Spencer card. If this card is good, I really will hate it. And I don't know, like, the way that I see this card is, so this card is good. It's like really, really good. Like, it's like, oh, we're just making free shocks for, like, I don't, I'll just be transparent. I don't see a world where this card sees play where it's just not killing your opponent immediately. Like, the sideboard thing that you just talked about, Abe, I think is a long gone version of this card. And we have now entered a world of Magic where, like, if this card sees play, your opponent just dies.
Well, what if I just keep on activating Fountain Port by sacrificing my munitions?
Well, maybe Standard's the exception to the rule that I'm making here, but I just...
No, even in Standard, you're probably right. But, like... I don't know. That's still sweet. That's still awesome.
I'm not saying that's... I don't know. It's just not a me card. Not that being said, it's a cool tool. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like, killing your opponent with your 2-mana enchantment that does nothing except for the fact that you've built your deck in a way to, like, make this 2-mana enchantment cool isn't cool. Like, no. Like, that is cool. It's just, if it sees play, you're dead.
much like the real world, the first weapons factory is nothing I'm concerned about. It's the third weapons manufacturing I'm really worried about.
Why?
It's because it scales. Like, like you start getting 1 for 3. Like,
I bet you will never need a second one. I bet that you're just dead.
I don't know, man. I'll say this though, it's nice with the Zealot. Hey, we got a little stew going.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, you get me 3 of those, it would not be the first time I've dealt 6 damage with an Ornithopter, I'll tell you what.
Nice with Arcbound Ravager too. Rest in peace, King.
Yeah.
Come into a fight here.
Whoa!
He's
still around.
Let's go. Hey, you got one more.
I do. And I think just in general, I don't know if I just like different things than you guys, and this set is really, really like showing that. But I feel like I really picked very different favorites than y'all. Y'all are like Tarmogoyf, and I'm here like, nah. I want Ornithopter to make two useless artifacts that need to die, and I'm out here saying I want to play Famished World Sire, which is 5 green, for a 0/0 with Ward 3 and Devour Land 3. So when this creature enters, you can sacrifice any number of lands, and it enters with 3 times that many +1/+1 counters on it. And when it does enter, you look at the top X cards of your library, where X is this creature's power, and you put any number of lands from among those cards you're looking at onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle.
You're going to pretend like this didn't also make my favorites, Abe. Come on. You knew it also almost made my favorites.
Well, it almost made your favorite.
You knew that. You're going to get a wax poetic.
Spencer. It made mine, Spencer, because I like sacrificing my lands more than you. I've realized now from Goldfishing Amulet 3 times a day, at least, for the last 3 weeks. So, so yeah, I don't know. It just seems really fun. I'm imagining resolving this creature. And normally I'm not a huge fan of like the big dumb idiots that are finicky, but this one is like, it just feels really like it would be satisfying. And I'm looking forward to, like, I would love to cast this in Sealed and just like stack 4 or 5 lands and put every land in my deck into play, and then never draw a spell again and have like, 11 mana. So that just sounds awesome.
The reason this didn't make my list is because I didn't think it was better than the stuff that we could currently do in Titan. And additionally, I was a little worried that like 9 was not enough in Titan to like, get the effect we wanted.
Wait, Titan's not a good deck for this.
No,
this card needs you to have.
I'm saying what I thought. I'm not saying that it was logical. I'm just like,
it didn't need to be good. It's just my favorite, Spencer.
Yeah,
it could have been your favorite too, but you betrayed it. I'll never forget. I will never forget the day that Spencer betrayed the big fat Scapeshift monster, and you should not either, listener.
No, I should be ashamed. This almost was my favorite. Here's the thing that I really like about this card. Is that it doesn't in the right format, it doesn't like require that much of you, right? Like it just does the thing. So like when it enters, you just do the thing that you already did, right? So you can just what's the Mason? You're like a Gen Z. What's the?
I'm a millennial. I'm 32.
All right. I'm talking about upgrades. People upgrades. That's the Robots movie. No, I'm too old for that movie. But this
talking about Transformers, boy. What you saying?
No. I think it's called Robots.
Only robots I know are a fine Hasbro product of Transformers. Better known for the universes beyond Brother Wolf.
I'm pretty sure the movie is I think it's a DreamWorks movie called Robots, and it's like, we're like not selling parts anymore. We're selling upgrades. People upgrades. And I think this card does that. I like that.
I just want to have a Tifa in play when I play this. That's all I
know. You want to do your times tables? You want to do your squaring?
How are you getting to 8 mana?
Every turn I get to play a land drop, and with Ice Tiller I get to double up.
Okay, all right.
Listen, I never said it was a good plan. I'm just simply saying when I see this card, the first thing I thought was Tifa will be huge. That's
I don't think these cards are ever making the same deck ever. I think that's not happening.
I just want to
Amulet
take the
Tifa.
lands.
Amulet Tifa. Ooh. Mason's cooking.
There you go.
I just want to take the lands in play and put them in the graveyard and then just start ripping like 20 cards off top of my library. That's the best feeling.
Go to the Omnath. Triggers Omnath all 3 stages. And Omnath ramps to it. Get Pioneer. Another Pioneer All-Star.
Oh, let's go. Let's talk about hopefuls. Hopefuls are cards that we are just hopeful of. We've already talked about some. They're just cards that we like. I don't know. Hope make an impact. Like, they're not hits. They're not sleepers. Like, we're just like, I would think the format would be better if these cards were real in them. And my first card is one I almost did not put because I almost wasn't sure if I was hopeful about it. And that's Frenzied Baloth. This card is green for a creature beast. This spell can be countered. It has trample. It has haste. Creatures that you control can be countered. Combat damage can be prevented. Sorry, and it is a 3/2. I almost didn't put this on my hopefuls because it was like, man, if this card is good, I wonder if it's too good. But also, like, it kind of is understated these days. So maybe all the lines of text are fine. So maybe, like, I'm just hoping that, like, creature decks exist outside of, like, red aggressive decks in some way. So that's why I put it on my list. Like, I want creature decks to exist. I want things to counteract the things that I already know are, like, they're aggressive and good. Abe, you had some thoughts immediately when I read this card.
I just think it's going to punch people in the mouth. I think it's great. I think the card is, like, in a really good sweet spot of, like, punishing really reactive gameplay and forcing decks that normally kind of rely on maybe sweepers or, you know, other like kind of slower games to really have answers to this. Like, you can't confidently play a deck like a traditional blue-white control deck and expect to, like, beat someone who drew 2 copies of this card. It is just so fast. I mean, we talked about, like, you know, Goblin Guide earlier. Like, that much damage coming in that early is what makes that card really sweet. And, like, 1 or 2 of these, especially after following up our homie, the Edge Rover. I mean, it's just a really fast clock, and I think the card is really,
I think it's
really strong.
I think what's funny is, like, it doesn't even have to be a main deck card. Like, this card has so many words on it. You're like, all right, I want this type of effect for this matchup to, like, F up their pivot. So,
yeah, I think it is probably going to be at its best as a sideboard card, unless, like, you're playing like the Rover deck plus this, like, I want a green Stompy deck, right? That kind of world. That's where I think this team's main deck play. Honestly, this card strikes me as a commander card, where the goal is, like, there are people who play these group hug, you don't get to do anything decks, and homie comes in and is like, no, the game will end. You cannot, like, fog me. You cannot counter everything I do. I will get to play Magic. I like this card for sort of stopping the kind of, like, completely prison-y lockouty stuff. So,
yeah, my other hopeful was, in fact, Ledge Rover, which we've already talked about. So, Mason, we're going to kick it to you. What is our next card?
Genomorph Imago, I think is how you would say this. It is a blue and a green for a creature insect druid, 1/3 with flying. It has landfall. Whenever a land you control enters, target creature has base power and toughness 3/3 until end of turn. If you control 6 or more lands, that creature has base power and toughness 6/6 instead. I just kind of like this as, like, a aggressively slanted blue-green card where, like, you can kind of beat down. Blue-green decks often have a lot of, like, I think trouble in Standard because they try to play like these weird tempo-y roles that don't really exist. I think they have a hard time closing games out, and this card maybe helps solve some of that. I don't really know what I want to do with it, but I'm kind of hopeful for something like this. And like Spencer mentioned at the start of the show, blue-green is one of the colors that has all of the lands. You know, it's got the fast, the shock, and the verge. And so I don't know, maybe there's something that could be happening with like a low to the ground deck, and you play this and, you know, it just hits them for 3 every time you make a land drop, or, you know, make something else kind of big. And I don't know, it's not a particularly cool, like not the coolest card in the world, but it was something I kind of hope sees play.
The answer is always Tifa, Mason. Turn 2 Tifa, turn 3 the bug, landfall. Fabled Passage. Tifa's a 3/3, doubled to 6, fetch, take 12.
Boom.
I mean, come on.
So I lost the mono green landfall deck at my store champs on Saturday, you know?
I'm not gonna lie, I'm like trying to figure out. So like, Fable Passage is in Bloomborough.
Yeah.
That does not rotate, right? Right?
No, yeah. Bloomborough's here for like another 2 years. Yeah.
But it's not here for all the foundations, so.
Yeah. I don't think it's in Foundations, but Fable Passage is in Bloomborough.
It is in Bloomborough. I was just I'm just checking live on the podcast.
That's just ready for 2028.
I can't believe it's not in Foundations. Anyway, I would love to talk about your next card because I literally did not read this card until I saw it. That's not true. I did read it because it was 1 mana and didn't put it on my list. But Mason, what is your next card?
Synthesizer Lab Ship. Artifact Spacecraft Station. At the beginning, and so 4/4 when you turn it on. So basically the way these work are like you kind of crew with them, where you like tap something to put power, to put I think that they're called like charge counters for this one onto it, equal to the power of the creature you tap. So this one has 2 modes. The first one is when it has 2+ charge counters. It has at the beginning of combat on your turn, up to 1 other target artifact you control becomes an artifact creature with base power toughness 2/2 and gains flying until end of turn. And this has 9 counters. This is a flying vigilance creature that is a 4/4. So what I like about this card is theoretically it creates like a little army of constant, you know, running at you like munitions, like, you know, from Abe's deck or whatever. But also it kind of crews itself up a little bit, you know, like you can play this and then turn something into a little 2/2 to then crew this up again. I don't know, it's just like a 1 mana, very interesting spacecraft that I thought was fun and kind of hope this sees a little bit of play.
I love it, and it's my concern with spacecrafts, and I'll just say this, is like you needed creatures to crew them. Like, so for example, like if it was just the mana value, right? Like if I could just like tap like an Ichor Wellspring to like make the Ichor Wellspring a 2/2, it's got to be a lot better, right? But they ask you to actually play creatures, and that limits them a lot. I'm actually concerned about spacecrafts, that they're actually underpowered, and that's why none of them made my list. But you got the Spencer Curse. Could be wrong. I mean, might mean to buy all the spacecrafts in the world, but I was a little concerned about the fact that you needed to put creatures into them for them to do anything.
Well, it's kind of like vehicles, but the charge, like if you have a low charge cost, like this one does, right? It's like you have to crew 1 time and your thing's always on, but not always susceptible to interaction. Which is kind of how
I think actually, at least in my mind, because this card actually did almost make my list as a sleeper, because I think that everyone, at least most everyone I've talked to, feels the way that you feel, Spencer, about the spacecrafts. Like they feel like having to pour tapping creatures into enabling a card is too large a cost.
I will say that the creature doesn't need to have haste. Like you can just do it. And I did think about that.
Yeah, you could like you can do it with any creature as a sorcery. It does not have to be it can be summoning sick. So it does work with warped creatures. Um, if you're playing cards with that mechanic, you also like I don't know. I think that what makes Synthesizer Lab Ship specifically interesting to me is not necessarily that I care about ever turning into a 4/4 Flying Vigilance, because I don't. It's that it's kind of like a one mana battle, which I think is the closest comparison, right? Like it's a card you play that you're going to use your creatures for something other than attacking or blocking your like with your opponent or protecting yourself to generate another card's worth of advantage, roughly. But in this case, it kind of creates a very, a bit of a nuisance of a permanent that just says, like, it's an enchantment now that makes it so at the beginning of combat every turn, you have a 2/2 flying attacker if you have a non-token artifact. Or not even non-token, just another artifact that you can have, lying around, be it ammunition, be it, a treasure token, a food token. You have a lot of ways to turn that into a consistent form of pressure. And I think that that is a really, really powerful thing to get for really low cost of a single blue to cast it and then tapping a 2 power creature one time. Like that is a really efficient rate for, right? If that was a battle, single blue and like 2 defense.
No, I get what you're saying. Maybe you're right on, like, especially because of the flying. Like, turning one of my guys sideways for one turn to just always have a 2/2 flyer, that's probably good enough, Mason. So
yeah, your rover makes a map, or sorry, makes a lander, which this turns into a 2/2.
Yeah, I okay.
It can also put the rover in the air.
Yeah. I think
the
like,
reach flying rover.
I also have worry about space stations. I just think the way I'm looking at them is they are vehicles, and I think the best ones are going to be the ones where I only have to commit one creature to get something immediately out of it, right? And that's why this one jumped out to me.
Oh, okay. So you have the same concern, but you liked this one because it was 2.
Well, I would say I'm less worried about it than you are, because I think creatures come down. I can tap them a fair bit of the time, especially if it turns the thing on, right? But I need to have some upfront, like I gotta get something out of it immediately. It's kind of that's what I'm looking for, or it's game ending when it turns on. Like there's one that I think Anthem's the team, then it's like 6, where it's like a super anthem or something like that. That one I'm pretty interested in too.
Cool. Abe, we got Timeline Cutter. You're gonna cut this timeline in half, or Kohler. I'm just wrong. Timeline Kohler, same thing. You're just calling the timeline here. You just edit that out, Abe, with your Timeline Color. That'd be great.
Yeah, he'll cut out the bad timeline. Timeline color is black for a 2/2 haste Drix Warlock that says you may cast this card from your graveyard using its warp ability, and it has warp for a single black and paying 2 life. So that means that for a single black from your graveyard or from your hand, you can end 2 life, you can cast it, and then it'll go to exile at the end of the turn. I think this card's really, really good. Like, I don't know, I think that it has a lot of potential, and I think in a deck like, using cards like Bloodghast and like this, it kind of gives fuel for the Aristocrats stuff, in that this can even just be your 1-drop that you pay black and you each take 2, right? You take 2 and attack for 2, it goes to exile at the end of the turn. Doesn't even have to be in the graveyard for you to warp it. Or it's just a black 2/2 haste that then has the ability to continue to recur when you need a creature, and when you're doing things to subsidize that life loss, like having sack outlets in Sepharroth. You have any amount of additional pressure, so you're winning that race. I mean, there are times where a recursive threat like this is really good, and I think generally when recursive creatures like this are good, I typically enjoy the nature of the standard format. So I'm pretty hopeful for this one. I always have a soft spot for the scrappy recursive black creature. So if this is one that gets there, I'll be pretty happy.
This was almost one of my hits. I actually think this card is pretty crazy. the fact that you get to warp it from your graveyard, which means you get to play it again. Like, actually, that is not been talked about yet. So I'm just going to talk like if you warp it from your graveyard. Oh, yeah. Okay, I'm right. You also can then cast it again later. So like, it recurs multiple times. I think this card is pretty good. The question will be whether a 2/2 haste for the cost and what it's doing fits into a deck. That would not have been a question that long ago, but it is now, as we've talked about on this episode already. So, Mason, take it away.
Yeah, I'm interested with this card in Zealot. Like in the White Black Aristocrats deck, I almost put this in for the video, but I decided not to. And I kind of regret not having like at least the first one. I didn't think it's nice. It reminds me a lot of Gravecrawler, and those kind of spots. And like, especially when you're playing like, when I had a couple of the Essence Warden type creatures, like the Gain of Life and something enters play from Bloomburrow, and then the Sepharroths, like you end up not losing that much life, or maybe even breaking even/above. And I don't know. I think this is pretty good. I also just think like we talked about the Frenzied Baloth as an anti-control card. I mean, this definitely has that. You know, like your opponent cannot just sit there and like Wrath of God you over and over again. Like they need to have Ultima type stuff.
Actually, Ultima doesn't work against this. The new, I don't think it made our list, but the new.
Oh, I thought Ultima exiled. Excuse me, then the spacecraft one. Then
no,
is that the one exiles?
It's the one. It's gosh, it's the one that exiles creatures 2 or less. But it only
if you don't have like a lockdown.
Yeah, it's like a temporary lockdown. It's that one that would stop this, but it would actually only stop it on one side of it. So because it wouldn't stop the other side, right? Because like it would exile itself, so they wouldn't be able to do it.
Oh, I think like if it was hard cast. Yeah. Sorry, I thought Ultima exiled.
No, it just ends the turn, so it stops like effects.
Oh, sorry. I guess I'm thinking there's one from the new set that's like exile all the creatures as well. It's like basically a Sunfall, but doesn't do the incubate thing. Like you're gonna have to have that line up on the front side to get my color against those decks. And I think that's just really hard.
Yeah,
you know.
I agree. Also, I think it's worse than Ultima. So
yeah, I think this card theoretically is like probably going to be one of my biggest regrets not being on my hits. Is kind of where I'm at with it.
I love that. Let's talk about hits. These are things that we just believe are going to happen. Oh, man. And I got a story to tell about Spencer following Jacob down a rabbit hole where a patron posted a card. They're like, I think this is the best card ever printed, and I misread it. The first time, the second time, and the third time. And that's Lightstall Inquisitor. It's an angel wizard. It has 1 white. It has vigilance. When this creature enters, each opponent exiles a card from their hand and may play that card as long as it remains exiled. Each spell costs 1 more to cast, and each land enters tapped. So, fun fact, the first time I read this card, I thought you got to play that card. I thought you stole it. Guess what? That'd be the best 1-drop ever printed. That's not what the card does. However, this card is still crazy. This card's still really, really good. I decided to keep it on my hits because just the investment cost is so low, and the upside is so high that I felt like it was worth it. And I also try to highlight like really good 1-mana cards. I don't know if this one will see play outside of standard. I don't think like the Death and Taxes style decks. I think 1 mana might be a little too low for, whether it be Pioneer, Modern, or Legacy. But wow, just like that's a lot of words on a 1-mana card.
I mean, I think the biggest parallel is to like Elite Spellbinder, which was a card that was just very good. Now, given Elite Spellbinder did have flying, and was
you
like did make things cost 2 more, and you picked, so you got the best card. But I think that just you know, I mean, Savannah Lions already is an okay rate, you know, 2 power creature. This has vigilance, so it's almost always able to attack pretty freely. If it's a good attack, it gets to attack. It can make combat difficult for your opponent. It really is just like a very solid speed bump to put in front of your opponent, or can be a part of kind of layering these speed bumps to drag your opponent to a halt, right? Like, imagine Pioneer curving this into Athalia. Like, now you're like making their lands come to play tapped. If they put lands aside, their spells are going to come off, you know, late. They're going to have to pay 2 for their removal spell, or, you know, 4 mana for their threat that's supposed to stall up the board. Like, these little incremental things matter.
I can't believe it's an angel. Like, that's the thing that bugs me.
It's so much a collection of the little things. I think we talked about it with the Angel that Mason was talking about before. Maybe tutoring one of these is just a card that is worth having if you need something to hit your land drops, and then you have some of these, right? Like, playing this card at almost any stage of the game is going to be annoying for your opponent in the early game, and then in the late game, you know, maybe it just causes their land to come to play tap, maybe they're hellbent, but it still is a 2 mana or a 1 mana 2/1 vigilance, and that's not bad. You know, 1 mana creatures that are on rate are just hard to have be bad, and I mean, there's a lot of, I think, really good application here. It's not just an angel; it's also a wizard, so it has all of these creature types. Like, it's such a collection of the little things that add up. It's just like it has every single dial tuned up like just another notch to make this, I think, a really deceptively powerful card, even if it's not another white Ragavan.
I think that, Mason, you would call this card a role player. And I think that's what it is. Like, I think that, like, it is that role player that maybe pushes a deck in one way or another.
Yeah, like, I think a good analogy to me is Dauntless Bodyguard, where it's like, it's a 1-drop that you want to play kind of early, and it gives you some upside. And, you know, Dauntless Bodyguard gave you like indestructible on like an important thing, which was really important, but it was a lot worse on turn 1. This card, you know, turn 1, you can kind of play it, and, you know, your opponent has a lot of information about their hand, right? And so it's really good. But, you know, it's still good, but it's like they get to kind of play with it. But then also you rip this on turn 4, turn 5, you know, you play this maybe post combat, and now suddenly the play that maybe they set up gets a little bit more awkward, I think is really nice. And also I thought about this with some of the warp cards too. Like, if you're playing like the Loyal Steed type stuff, this card to me seems like a really interesting way to, like, oh, you can like flicker this too to make their cards more expensive. I kind of want to have something for stuff like that.
Does that work?
Yeah, when this creature enters, if you flicker this thing, it does it again.
Well, no, I meant like, does this? Sorry, not the warp cards. I meant the other one, the void cards. Does this trigger void? No, because it didn't leave the battlefield.
That's not the Loyal Steed is the saddle guy that flickers. Yeah. So the idea basically being like, you know, if you're trying to go in on a warp deck, I think this card's pretty interesting, as well as like something that kind of fits in with your flickering and going on there, right? Obviously, they need to have cards in hand because this exiles the card from the hand. But I don't know, it's just it's an interesting card to think about. I think it's really strong. You know, I think just in general, 1 mana 2/1 vigilance would be a card that you would be like, okay, yeah, maybe I want to play, you know, in my aggressive deck. And then getting this line of text is like, oh wow, I really like having this card in my deck.
I think the white aggressive decks have been really lacking in Pioneer. For what it's worth, I think this card fits that. Listen, I'm the biggest anti-believer in angels in history, but this actually does help that deck a lot in like a lot of ways. Like, I'm not going to pretend that it doesn't. I also think that, like, it's better than a lot of the humans, and like, you don't have to be humans to play mono white in Pioneer. I think this card's a lot better than a lot of the 1-drops that we had. So
yeah, I do think that's best, by the way, in standard and like the pseudo mirrors, like matchups where people are trying to curve out, because if you're playing against like do nothing control decks, they often have a tap land, right? That they can just kind of play. Like it's like, okay, here's my surveil land. Nice job, idiot. I was gonna play that turn one anyways, So it is a card that I think is weird because like at first blush I was like, oh, this seems so nice against control, but then kind of thinking about how it works more and more, I think I like it a lot against like in the white mirror. This is probably gonna be a weirdly frustrating card.
Imagine forcing your opponent fetch land to go into play tap though.
Yeah, I mean, for some of them that's like really, really powerful. Yeah. But for some of them like Fatal Passage 2 in standard, it's like what already was gonna happen. Right? Like I got sorry, Fatal Passage fetches tap. Excuse me, I got mistaken on how that interaction worked. No, that is huge actually in standard, yeah. I don't know.
I was gonna say
it's a really powerful card.
This is the kind of card that, like, I mean, to your point, Mason, when the game is more condensed and it's all about the first few turns, the card is better because each mana costs more that you wind up spending, be it a tap land.
One is crazy.
Exactly. Like, this is a card that I might even, like, if your opponent, like, played a couple of these in the game of Modern, it would probably, and the rest of their deck was also functional, like, that would probably present a problem for you because most decks are really tuned to be really efficient, and paying an extra mana is like not negotiable in that format, which is important to remember. Like the card has a lot of pedigree to it because taxing for a mana in any way already means that you're kind of trading equal on mana whenever it gets answered. Right? This 2-1 for 1 took a mana from my opponent regardless. And that is worth it in some games.
Yeah, you're one lander, you're not getting the freebie. Can
you imagine? Just like play this, you're like, Nikes, I gotta exile this 4-drop because like I can't,
Oh my god. I don't know why you saying that reminded me of Timeline Cutter, but Timeline Cutter Black Overlord. I was just thinking about like whether I had cheap things, like what can I also play with that? I pull one of these off my Black Overlord. I'm not too sad about it. I don't know. That's interesting. Black Overlord, Timeline Cutter, this card. I don't know. Maybe you'll be seeing me in the arena streets day one.
So Clueless Starforge is next. This was so lazy. I kind of felt bad for putting this on my hits. But the second I read it, I was like, well, this is just a better Mirrex. So this is a land that taps for colorless. You pay 2 and tap it. Tap X, untapped artifacts to control. You can appreciate that, Abe. Creature gets plus X plus O until end of turn. Activated as a sorcery. You also pay 5 and tap it to create a 2/2 robot. Untap. This card's just good. Like, this is going to be a one of in. You're going to lose to this card. I just want you to know. I want you to be prepared to lose to this card. It's going to be good. It's going to be annoying, and like you can't stop the motion of the ocean. Like this is how they make these lands now, and they're annoying, and it will at one point be the best one, and you will lose to it. Mason?
Yeah, I don't really have much more to say about it. It is just another. I mean, back in my day, we paid 7 mana for this ability. I don't know. It's another land that can win the game by just being a land and mana being poured into it. It enables a quote-unquote no-win con control deck where this is just it. But I don't know. I think I agree. It's definitely got the opportunity to be played. I don't think it's very offensive in that. And then it's just like, I don't know, making 2/2s is like, I think especially about Fountain Port, it does so much and does so much throughout the game and is even more efficient at creating bodies, which like when it's blocking and is defensive is the most obnoxious part. So, 6 lands make a 2/2, ends the game faster than Mirrex did, and like, I don't know, kind of takes over the game.
That was my only thought. Mirrex was already good enough. This is better than Mirrex. Let's go.
I mean, I think it will shine at its most like when Mirrex did, which is when standards were at their smallest, and then as standards grow, it will leave decks. Right? Like that's just what happened to the Mirrex over and over again. It was like, oh, rotation happened. The Mirrex is pretty good. Put it in your blue-black deck or whatever. It's like a good mana sink. Oh, we got better lands or our power level increases in our cards. We need to be curving out more efficiently. We can't afford to have this. Get out of here. I kind of expect a similar lifespan for this, or like you all said, the do nothing control decks. Like I do think it is a nice, like, you're trying to just have a land be a win condition. Well, here you go. It will make a billion things. But I also think Magic doesn't play that way anymore.
I like I said, it was a really boring one. I was like, this is. I know I'm gonna lose.
I would go as far as say it's maybe not a hit to be like the hater
Really?
race and the yeah. I'm pretty like
You're gonna lose to it,
skeptical
Mason.
of this. So that I lose to plenty of cards that are bad. I lost to the Tifa Landfall deck.
No, Mason, the Tifa Landfall deck's gonna be so good.
Yeah, you keep saying that. I mean, you know,
I don't
I
believe
got mana screwed, and they put the stupid roll with the Ward 1, and I was like, oh
Did you guys see my tweet that said this is pod racing?
No, I did not.
You guys gotta look at it. We were playing in the CCMG team Discord for patrons, and we had the exact same first 3, maybe 4 turns, and I took a screenshot, and I was like, "This is pod racing. We're playing mono green mirror." I was like, "What's happening?"
That's sick.
I will say, I think it's important to remember, just in general, because I think Mason made a really good point about this card being something that sees more play in smaller card pools.
I mean, 5
like
is a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying, when we're talking about cards that are typically good in smaller card pools, we did just have a rotation, but Standard is still incredibly large compared to how it has been previously, right? We still have foundations. Like the card pool is just sizable in a way that might make this card not as big of an impact as it would have been even just 2 years ago.
Sure.
Yeah.
Mason's gonna challenge me on this. Mason, when you lose to this, you have to post the screenshot, okay?
Dude, losing one game does not make
No. You gotta do it for the content.
I'll remember 2 years from now when it happens.
It's gonna be so great seeing the screenshot because Mason's gonna have 1 or 2 lands in play and be like,
yeah, we're like, yeah, you got me, dude.
Just I didn't actually play this game, but let's talk about consult the star charts.
Yeah, so this is my other hit that isn't Umbral Collar Zealot. Consult the star charts is 1 in a blue for an instant with kicker 1 in a blue, and it says look at the top X cards of your library where X is the number of lands you control. Put 1 of those cards in your hand. If the spell was kicked, put 2 of those cards in your hand instead, and put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. This card is busted.
Dude, can I... You know, like how sometimes we like misread cards? In my head, this card had kicker and flashback for some reason for the same cost, and I thought it was the best draw spell ever printed.
It still might be one of the best draw spells ever printed. It's really strong.
I had a lot of conversations about this card, Abe, and I think that it is like Deluge good. Maybe.
Yes, Deluge good is broken.
No, I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying like where I think it fits. I think it's Deluge good.
It's Deluge good, and instead of being Deluge good because you pay 4 for it and you get it on rate there, and then you pay 7 for it and it didn't cost you a card from your hand and you just get the 2 best cards and you therefore win the game, your end game is already solved. It works the other way. You play it for 2 mana and you get like anticipated your land drop, so you can cast it for 4 and see like 4 to 7 to 10 cards and take the 2 best at any stage of the game. Like, you don't need to have access to so many more resources necessarily, and don't need to like do so much more deluging to win the game most of the time, but you do need to hit your land drops, and that is often the biggest joke for decks like these. And so this card is just,
you never needed a flashback deluge. You have already won the game if you got to that point in the game. So I agree.
No, so sometimes you do need it. But it's so good when you have it. I mean, I think about the analyst decks. Like, since Deluge was printed, I think it was in one of the best deck in its standard format until it rotated. Like, it was a huge part of the Alrund's Epiphany deck. It was a huge part of the blue-white control decks. It was a huge part of the Aftermath Analyst decks. Like, part of the reason to not play a non-blue version of Analyst was just so that you had access to Deluge. So when you milled it over, you could just find the thing you needed. Like, that's part of why Deluge is so good. But this card, I think, in a way that, because it doesn't have the inherent benefit of flashback, is just, as a Magic card in most average games of Magic, going to be better because it will be Anticipate, or it will be Deluge or Dig Through Time or whatever at any stage of the game. It's so strong.
Yeah, like I talked earlier about the Shepherd, right? And how one of its big strengths is like your game plan isn't coming together, and it kind of like lets you grab a land, right? I think about Consult the Star Charts, where it's like you're on a mulligan to 6, whatever, with your blue-white control deck. You keep a 2-land, you have just 2 lands and 5 spells, excuse me, you bottom 1. You're going to miss your land drop. You Consult the Star Charts, right? You get to keep playing. Yeah, it's not what I wanted. That is like really strong in your Memory Deluge type card, right? You want this to be your 4 mana draw 2 card that like the standard control decks often really want. And I think often make or break, like you kind of said there, with Memory Deluge, like their power level matters a lot in these sort of situations in Standard. And this one, just early game being like nice like that, is super huge. And then also, just like imagine turn 5-ish comes around, right? You Consult the Star Charts on turn 4, you grab another 1 plus some card because you kicked, you play your 5th land. Spencer tries to, cast some card, and you're like, oh, I'll just play this for 2 mana, look at the top 5, try and find my counter spell because I'm going to lose if that resolves. And that's super nice too, right? And it's like, yeah, I want this card to draw me 2 cards, but that flexibility is just so insane. And it's also one of my hits. And I think probably the best card from the set. I played this with some VV stuff too. It was so nice, just as like a couple of in my VV deck. It's just like, yeah, I definitely want all the stock ups, but I'm down to pay a little bit more to like see a lot more cards.
I love that. Abe, I gotta call this out. I think you also had Pillage the Bog on your pick too.
Yeah, Pillage the Bog was gas too.
I'm not saying. I just wanted to call it out. It's like,
Yeah. I only pick winners, is what I'm hearing.
No, this card is. I mean, obviously, when I thought it did what I did, I thought it was, one of the best cards of all time. But I still think this card is absolute gas. We already talked about the Umbrella Collar Zealot. So Mason, we already talked about Star Chart. So talk to me about your next card.
Seam Rip, nothing fancy here. Just white for an enchantment. When this enchantment enters, exile target non-land permanent opponent controls the mana value 2 or less until this enchantment leaves the battlefield. Portable Hole with better art and an enchantment, sign me up. That's a card that's totally reasonable to play. And I also say enchantment decks, I think, really like this sort of card. Like, when you look at like Enchantress in Modern, which is not the world's best deck, but like having something like this is actually very nice. Like an answer spell for a lot of the threats that just cantrips or turns on synergies is super big. And this card fits that role. And I just think Portable Hole was like a card that saw some out of play. I think this is going to see some out of play. It's going to be good when it does. And having just Portable Hole by another color is great. One of the things I always thought was really true was like Portable Hole came out during right before the MH2 era. And it kind of had like I want to say a month or 2, maybe 3, where it was like the set legal and there wasn't a lot of paper play. And I think if there was, Portable Hole would have been one of the most popular removal spells in Modern, just because of how efficient it is. Obviously, a lot's changed since MH2 came out, but I think Seam Rip has a chance to be that solid removal spell that Portable Hole was, just with different and sometimes even better synergies because it's an enchantment.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that one of the things that held back Enchantress's strategy was that it was forced, like the rest of the white-based kind of mid-rangey answer decks, to play like prismatic endings and stuff. Like it really wanted, and I think more than any other deck, needed a synergistic answer like Portable Hole, which still sees play, and like I see hammer lists with it. I know it was a card people were getting off of like what was that terrible card, Blacksmith's Apprentice, like, just like finding an artifact being a bit of a synergy, like finding an enchantment or triggering enchantresses, like it does make a huge difference to have access to this simple role-playing answer at a good rate for a specific band of things, especially in Modern, to enable kind of the rest of things, where a deck like Enchantress really needs to have cheap plays that aren't just abundant growths, to fuel things and get a little bit more time. And so, this card, be it in a deck like that, be it with some of the Duskmourn enchantment matter stuff, there's just a lot of ways that taking Portable Hole and shifting it to an enchantment just absolutely changes everything about the card, and makes it so it has more gaps it's filling in the context of standard or other format.
Yeah, I won't add too much. Both of you, Mason specifically, I guess, had two cards that almost made my hits. Maybe you both did. I sent this card in a group chat, and I was like, they're like, is this better than Portable Hole? I was like, here's where it's better. They're like, here's where it's worse. We're like, okay, so it is better and worse. Like, that's it. Like, Portable Hole's a good card. Like, just being an enchantment, like, there are certain things that will want that over not wanting it. That's it.
And that's kind of the point.
Yeah.
Like, it's better some spots, worse others. Can't work for it. Can draw a card with it with Enchantress.
Yeah, it just is what it is. I think that's a great hit, Mason. We got rotation, so I wanted to talk about this really quick. Do you guys have any opinions on like what this set will bring with rotation overall? I can go first. I think the format's going to slow down. I think that the aggressive decks are going to figure out... They're going to figure out a way to beat the aggressive decks, and the format will slow down. It's my opinion. Could be wrong. But I think that, like, a lot of the cards that we talked about are not aggro cards. And I think that is purposeful by Wizards, who realized that they made a really aggressive standard format.
I think for me, the most notable change is going to be in like mid-range, and especially like 2 to 3 color mid-range being back on the menu, if that's something that you want to do. In a way, it was kind of gone before. I know Dimir is one of the premier decks in the format right now, but I think a lot about how Domain kind of crowded out certain things, and how cards like Leyline Binding really changed the way that kind of bigger decks were to be built. And so I think there's a lot of room there. I think there's a lot of really cool stuff you can do with the warp mechanic. I think there's a lot of really cool untapped cards from Final Fantasy as well. Like, I think that we've already started seeing it with the bans, but so much of the, oh, well, if you're playing a deck that does this, you need to play this package of cards stuff was undone at its core. It was really surgically pulled out. And so, I think there's a lot of untapped opportunity. We talked about Tifa and Sepharroth and Vivi as like cards that are being built around, and I think there's opportunity for these to fit into those shells and create shells their own. And there's just some powerful stuff there that isn't necessarily what's already being done, and so it'll be cool to see it have its impact. I don't know, Mason, what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I echo a lot of what's been said. I also think like I'm looking at like the lands a lot, like Spencer mentioned at the start of things. Like, what do my shock lands facilitate? Like, in the Mitgo thing I mentioned earlier that I played the VV deck updated with like Plasma Bolt, which is a card we didn't talk about, and like, consult the star charts, and having just more basics and like a couple Thundering Falls, and you do feel the difference. Like, cards like Ship and Reef are worse than Steam Vents, but you really want your mana in or untapped and you're curving out, right? And I'm curious to see how that stuff kind of evolves and what standard looks like, because we have a lot of really strong like blue red blue black decks that are not losing a ton of important pieces on rotation,
Other than
but the blue red decks are losing their lands.
it's funny because I don't want to harp too hard on like the fact that the mana is changing, but I was looking at stuff today, and what Abe just said about like 3-color re-entering is true, because you have the shocks and verges and the other stuff, but like it's only for specific color combos. Like you don't get it for everybody, and then figuring that out is like kind of important. Like if I get three colors of spells in my deck is, I don't know if anybody has played 3-color formats, but like 3-color spells are really good. Like they're undercosted. They do a lot of stuff, and getting the best of everything at every value, if my mana isn't taxed, is pretty crazy. So like what Abe said about like 3-color decks coming on the plate, like when was the last time you saw a real 3-color deck that wasn't like a bushwhack deck, Abe?
I mean, it's been a while, but I think
Jeskai Control was like,
yeah. I mean, the Jeskai Chico deck is definitely a hard 3-color deck. Even if you want to code it as like, I mean, it's not just a blue-white deck. It's not just a red-white deck. It kind of had a lot of the sprites. But I think that when you really look at it, like the ability through verges to have a painless source of a 3rd color, starting town is a really strong land. It's potent if you're trying to have access to colors early. Like playing a 2-color deck with a 3rd color is pretty feasible, whether or not you have all of your lands. And where you do have all of your lands, your opportunities are really, it's really there.
Yeah, I think too, part of it is I don't know what 3-color cards I want to play. Like I was looking through Tarkir again, and I was like, because that's like the 3-color set, right? And we're heading to Lorwyn soon, which is historically like a multicolor set as well. But I am like, oh,
but it is allied and enemy, so it's like,
definitely, yeah, it's interesting. What I'm really curious about is, does Spider-Man have the shock lands, or does Lorwyn have the shock lands, or does Avatar? You know what I mean? Like the other half are definitely coming. I don't think they've mentioned like, hey, for sure when this is happening. But one of the weird things is like Lorwyn will be a different standard rotation than this one, with the way the new sets rotate soon.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, if they're in Lorwyn, we'll have 5 of the shock lands for another year longer than we had the other 5. Which
the other thing is that we'll have a whole standard season without them, right? Like, regardless of what happens, I guess maybe not if they're in Spider-Man. I guess that would be halfway through the season.
Yeah, it would be halfway through the season, and I listen, I can imagine Hollowed Fountain, it's like Central Park, got a little Spider-Man version of it. It's not unrealistic.
Just every shock land, but Spider-Man. It's just the original Ravnica art, but Spider-Man's hiding somewhere where's Waldo style. He's just crawling up the buildings.
I just say, if they're not in Spider-Man, we'll have an entire season with this mana.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like, I guess one of the things that's like jumping out to me is like, it is like not even something I'm really thinking about when it comes to preparing, but something I'm just thinking about like as an abstract thought, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't know, it is interesting, and like, like personally, I really just kind of want to, like, my game plan is I'm gonna play black-white aristocrats for the first week or two, because I bought my Sepharroths, and I've got all the other cards, and I want to play it. It was really fun. And then I'm going to kind of figure stuff out. But I'm also not doing stuff like, Spotlight Orlando or whatever, right? So it's like, okay, my incentives are like RCQs. But also it's a weird time for Standard, because the Pro Tour is coming for Edge of Eternities, and it's Modern.
Yeah.
But it's also 8 weeks after the set releases on the release date of Spider-Man. So it's like, it's a very weird Standard format where I have clients for coaching that are like starting to rev up and asking like, what should I be thinking about and doing from like a high level, how to approach a rotation type thing. But it's going to be a weird season, I think. That's kind of my vibe.
It's honestly why I put these questions in the set review, because we don't normally have this conversation. But I was pretty concerned because is Modern impacted by this set? Because you don't actually get that long with the cards plus another set before you have your RCs.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I feel like we're the competitive trying to help people qualify through their RC podcast, and I don't know. There's a lot of cheap cards in this set. I had somebody, we didn't talk about Tezzeret, for example, in this set, and people were like, hey, is this gonna impact Modern? Was one of the people that I coach. I'm like, I don't know.
Gonna impact Vintage.
Yep, yeah, we'll do that there. That's just true. But I think that taking the time to look at things and working with your play group will help a lot. So you can check out our sponsor at Mana Traders. You can use the code CCMG5 right now to check at checkout to help us out. I do know that you guys are using it. It does help. We had a pretty good month last month. Let's have a better month this month. CCMG5, Mana Traders. It's Modern time anyway. Let's bump those up. I had a coaching session today, Abe, where I said, I hate to plug my podcast sponsor, but I have to show you this. And I showed them the premium replay feature of untapped.gg in Arena. And they were like, wow. You can do that by phase. You can rewind it. You can do it by card. You can do it by all kinds of stuff. And I was like, yeah, this is in beta. But it changes how you look at replays on Arena. And I think, posted 3 screenshots from my VOD reviews in the Patreon Discord just showing that. I will say one thing that is confusing for people is that they count turns turn to turn. So I'm turn 1, you're turn 2, I'm turn 3, you're turn 4, which is not how most Magic players think of that. They see it as their turn 1, my turn 2. But other than that, it's pretty great. You can use the link in the show notes, Mason, to get that. And then you can go to the swag store. Get a mug. I actually have a mug downstairs that I just found because I'm still unpacking for Abe. Abe, you have a mug in my downstairs.
I can't wait until episode 650 when
Shut up.
It's going to be so
I
good.
moved. It wasn't my fault. I mean, it is my fault. I could have just sent it. To be fair, the fact that we could not send it to you directly was weird. I will say that. Noah's improving this week. We want to shout out our newest Patreon, John. Every week on the show, we shout out our newest Patreon. You go to patreon.com/CCMTG to join that. And then we do have a Patreon question from Searing Blaze. What are some ways you can improve your mental game? Mason.
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest ones is just simply don't focus on what you can't control. Did you make plays that made sense with what you had available to you and the information you had? If so, then great, you did a good job. Doesn't really matter if you win or you lose a game. It's about trying to play, the best game of the information you have. So, you know what? Get got by that random one of in their deck. What's that land that Spitzer thinks I'm going to lose to in 2029? That happens to me. It happens to me. I'm not going to lose sleep over it.
I'm actually just going to add on to yours, Mason, because I think that it's really important. I had a match in my most recent RCQ where I was playing Zoo and my opponent was playing Boros, and I Pyroclast them to beat them 2-0. Like, oh, I should have thought about Pyroclasm blah, 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 after the game. And I was like, no, you shouldn't have. If I had Pyroclasm as a one of in my 75, and you definitely should not have thought about it going into the game. like maybe you think like, is there something that I can do to mitigate it? But the thing that he was talking about is just like not casting spells. I'm like, that's wrong. Like, what was really funny is that we did a video on the Constructed Criticism YouTube channel where I was playing Boros, and I said, well, if you have Pyroclasm, I get F tier, but like otherwise, I think I win the game. And you have 1 Pyroclasm, I'm gonna jump in. Matt did have Pyroclasm on the video as the one of, and it was really funny to like have that happen both directions, as like the zoo player and as the other player, because I think the thing that you can do to improve your mental game is just like you said, just make the best play. Who cares what the outcome is? Like, if you have correctly assessed, you've thought of the other thing. You've thought of the thing that could happen if you're wrong. And it doesn't matter if you're wrong, if you decided that the percentage and the risk reward is higher on the thing that you're doing.
Yeah, one quick thing I'll say, and I'm curious what Abe has to say about this, is a big thing I've started talking to clients about is like, do you want to be a Pro Tour player, or do you want to look like a Pro Tour player, right? Do you want to be making the right decisions, making it to the Pro Tour, playing good Magic, or do you just want to get there and say you've done it? Focus on the process. Abe, what about you?
Yeah, I think that a lot of what you guys said is really good. I think that when it comes to mental game, I don't know, it's person to person. It's one of the things that I think I pretty uniquely have been able to help a lot of my coaching clients with in a way that they might not have gotten help from other coaches with, because it's something that I personally struggled with for quite a bit of time in the early parts of my career. And so like finding ways to really just like sit and reflect and understand where the gaps in my mental game were coming from, like where it was I was finding myself under pressure, or what the like psychological causes were for myself, or even like just actually really reflecting on what it was that was bothering me, and then taking steps to eliminate that. For me, it was that I felt like a huge amount of pressure. I felt like my mental energy and my ability to focus and stay in the zone was really affected by thinking about things outside of the tournament and not retaining my focus on playing my matches. And so that's something that I'd always done, but I really, really doubled down on, was just using a lot of the same like internal language with myself across what I was doing when it came to like playing a match at FNM or playing a match at GP. Like if I was playing for 1-2 with a bad draft deck, I was thinking about the game the same way, or like, you know, my pre-round approach was the same way as it is to if I'm playing for Pro Tour Invite. It's just the way that I approach things, and so that made it easier for me to stay level and consistent in the way I'm making decisions. And nowadays, like when I have something happen where I feel like my mental game is weak, or I like, you know, am making bad decisions, it's usually a case where I either just made a mistake and needed to like put in more preparation, and you know, but it's not because of the way that my emotional state or my, you know, mental state was really influencing. It's pretty rare for that, unless it's and I think recently it's been like, you know, matches at the Pro Tour kind of felt that way sometimes. I think when I really care, it can be tough, but it's easier for me to get into a zone and execute now because of that. So that's my advice.
I want to go back because I think you said something really important that maybe people don't realize that they're doing. And you talked about treating matches in certain ways, and you talked about your thinking about the tournament versus the outside thing. So I want to talk about the tournament versus the outside thing first, and then I want to talk about the other thing really quick. You were saying, I have this match. This match leads to X. I need to ignore that it leads to X. Because that doesn't matter, because the only thing that matters is the match, right?
Every match of the tournament leads to X2 is something I would bring up too. Round 1 and round 15 are the same, but yeah.
Yeah. But that's what you're saying, right, Abe?
Yeah, I just never think about X.
You're right. You just this doesn't matter. Okay. So now we've now got a line. We're just winning matches of match. That's what we're doing, right? And then you additionally said, for what it's worth, that not only do you do that, but you treat, like Mason said, this match and this match the same.
Yeah, I mean, they're all just matches of Magic.
How do you do that? Like, maybe this needs to be a podcast, but like,
how do I treat every match of Magic the same?
How do you ignore the X, which I think that we've all talked about this in ad nauseum on this podcast, but like, you're saying that this is the way to improve your mental health, is you ignore the X and then you have a line of everything's the same.
I mean, for me, it's just that when I sit down to play Magic, my goal is to win, and to play the best that I can and that I know how. And so, if that, whether that be, right, like I said, like whether that be FNM, whether that be a Grand Prix, whether that be the Pro Tour, it's just a matter of that's what I need to do. And so, yeah, I don't know. When you start thinking about it that way, you stop thinking about outcomes so much. It's really just about thinking about the behaviors you're executing to, which are playing good Magic.
I think if you once you also make the logic of like, you understand that all the rounds are important. Like your goal when you go to a match of like an RC or whatever is to get, what is it again, 39 points, whatever the number is. You have to get that many number of points. All that matters is getting those numbers, right? So like, if you lose round 1, that's almost equally as devastating as round 15. If you think about something holistically like that, you just have to kind of internalize that. It's easier said than done. I'm not saying it's like easy, and I'm also saying like it might even be harder for some people because they realize that like every round has that same equal amount of importance. But I see it a lot like pressure. If I spread the pressure out, it doesn't feel as bad if you put all the pressure in one spot. And your goal is just don't worry about it. I mentioned on the podcast before, Abe, when you die in Mario and you lose one of your 3 lives, are you freaking out about it? Got 2 lives?
Yeah, but that's because platformers are not for me.
Yeah, Abe's not here sweating like Mason's going to make fun of me again.
I'm like, I can't clutch up. I can't do it.
I'm challenging Matt to an 11-star bomb run versus a 16-star completion. So talk to me about this.
Yeah, like if you lose a life, it's not the end of the world, right? Like it's just
it might be in that challenge, but go ahead.
Yeah, but it's not though, right? Like you can still like we've seen people put up world record runs in Mario 16 stars, making one mistake.
That's true. Like, no, that's absolutely true.
Yeah. Watch what's God, the great YouTube channel with all those speed runs.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe you put me under this pressure. It's
Summoning Assault.
No, that's right. What is it?
Summoning Salt.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah, Abe got it. Watch those videos, and a lot of times world records are made with someone making a mistake or tying a world record, and they would have won if they hadn't done it, right? And it's still like an incredible achievement. Like one mistake is not the end of the world. That's something that like League of Legends just really taught me, where it's like, oh, I like completely threw this fight, my whole team lost. Yes, the game is harder than it was 35 seconds ago. The game is still probably winnable, especially if like I was ahead, right? Or maybe we were even. It just, you can come back.
I think the Pokemon Blue has a negative 14-second Nidoking record on it, which if you know Pokemon speedrunning thing, that's a huge, like a huge amount to overcome, is like getting your Nidoran to a Nidoking. And I don't know. I think that's beautiful. Like what Mason is saying, you should listen to. It is always a marathon, and we often look at it as individual races.
Yeah. I mean, I had this come up in my like League of Legends ranked experience where last week I won like 19 ranked games in a row. That's just like not reasonable. You know what I mean? And I was like, oh my God, I'm getting so lucky. These things gonna happen. And then over the weekend, I lost every game I played. Or whatever. I literally lost. I guess that's not true. I did like an F&M type thing with friends, and we won one game.
Fair.
And so I went 1 in, I think 9, I guess 1 in 10 or something like that. And it was just like, yeah, this is like reasonable for where I'm at with my skill level. I'm like a barely above 50% win rate player. Yeah. It's just, it comes in bursts or whatever. And it's not the end of the world that I lost, a bunch of these games. And it wasn't some huge indicator that I'm the GOAT when I won 19 of them. I'm looking at it like holistically. And you know what? As I look at my embarrassing amount of games here, I have 423 wins this season and 413 losses. I'm up 10. I'm just, like I said, slightly above, a positive win rate. And I think that's about where I am as a player. And so
I love that. You join the conversation with joining the Patreon Discord or the public Discord. Both things are in the show notes. Also, if you want Abe to smile, which he does have a smile real quick, Abe. No. Show him the real one. You look at his smile. It's a beautiful smile. If you want to see that smile more, you gotta leave a YouTube comment. That's what Abe smiles for. So you gotta go to the YouTube.
It's true. No comments, no smiles. Yep. It's a commitment.
It's what he does. He thrives off of them. So go to the YouTube comments, leave a comment. You get Abe smiles. They're allegedly the best smiles in Magic the Gathering. You can also follow us on Twitter at CCMTG. And you can follow us everywhere else at CCMTG Pod. Mason, you talked about coaching this week. Where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Mason E. Clark. You can find me at twitch.tv/TheMasonClark. You can reach out for coaching. You can reach out via Twitter, like I just said, Mason E. Clark, or my email, masoneclark@gmail.com, and put coaching in the description. And then I've been doing this little YouTube series where I'm preparing for like a Pauper tournament and recording a lot of the practice. I mean, technically all the practice I'm doing for that, and uploading it to YouTube in like these 1 hour segments where I'm specifically limiting myself to 1 hour for each of the days. Just like a lot of clients have talked about having that when it comes to their real life, managing work and a family and everything. And so if you're interested in that and maybe kind of seeing a little insight into how someone might do that, you can check that out on YouTube with Mason Clark. I think you put MTG at pop up because there's another Mason Clark YouTuber as well, but put my name plus MTG will pop up if you're interested.
I'm pretty sure that I offered to buy that from them and they did not respond.
Well, what are you gonna do? Anyways,
I'm actually quite positive that I was like, hey, I would like to buy this from you, and they were like, ghosted.
Well, it's all good in the neighborhood. It doesn't get used enough anyways. But Abe, where can people find you?
People can find me over at Blue Sky at More Nothings. My DMs are open for coaching. Probably not starting dates until next month. Just given some time for me to breathe following what's been a pretty busy summer with PT and everything. So you can DM me over on Blue Sky or at Twitter at More Nothings, or you can send me an email over at morenothings@gmail.com. Spencer, how about you?
Yeah, it's Spencer13H on Blue Sky. He's a game on Twitter. SpencerHowland@gmail.com. Just on the email. I appreciate the people that have reached out for coaching recently. It does help. And I'm at a pretty interesting point in my life, so the coaching is very helpful and things like that. I will say, I didn't tell Abe before this. Abe, do you want to coach me on a Hammer Time video on the YouTube channel this week?
The return.
What is it, 2022?
No.
Yeah.
No. Your new Hammer Time deck.
We'll talk about it.
Okay.
We'll talk about it.
I'd love to do that video because it's one of my decks for Vegas, and I would like to pick Abe's brain and things like that. But you can also find me on Constructed Clash. We didn't do a video this week because my kid caught the flu, but we will be back every week on Constructed Clash here on the Constructed Crypts YouTube channel. Thank you everybody so much. Like, subscribe, review, and we'll see you all next week with a brand new episode of Constructed.
Every time I touch that deck, it turns into gold. Magic, magic, magic.